Welcome to the 24th episode of the It's Been Said podcast. I'm your host, SAI Executive Director Remy. Each show is dedicated to conversations on leadership as we further SAI's mission to support, encourage, and develop Iowa's educational leaders and learners. Today, I'm excited to welcome and introduce SAI's new Communications Director, Laine Buck. Welcome, Laine.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, it's going to be great to introduce you to our members. So let's start off by you telling us a bit about your background and what brought you to School Administrators of Iowa.
Thanks, Lisa. Well, I've been in communications my entire career, but the last 7 years, I have been with West Des Moines Community Schools as their communications director. And my interest and passion for public education led me to West Des Moines Community Schools in 2017. And that was a natural transition when I learned about the opening here at SAI to continue the work at a statewide level.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're glad to have you. So what experiences in your career have prepared you for this role?
Well, as I mentioned, my time with West Des Moines Community Schools is certainly the most recent level of experience working in public education, working with administrators, superintendents, and just crafting communication needs, thinking strategically about how to best reach varied audiences. Our parents and guardians in my role were often a primary demographic that we focused on, as well as our staff. But just thinking through how those demographics are unique and how we may talk to them differently has really helped develop my abilities to work with principals and thinking about strategies for when they are wanting to reach out and share news to their stakeholders.
Mm-hmm. How about even prior to West Des Moines Schools, Laine? What other in your careers might have prepared you for some of your work with us?
Absolutely. Well, I didn't mention initially, but right out of college, I actually worked for the West Des Moines School District in the same department that I ended up overseeing. So I had an interest early on in public education, as well as just learning how to leverage technology with websites, as well as the written word to get out information. And then I transitioned and worked for several years at a web development company, which helped me, I think, even expand my knowledge and experience on how to think differently and how we communicate to our audiences. So it's not just in written word, it can be on social media, it can be podcasts like we're doing right now, videos, and thinking about the demographics, the age of the people that we're reaching out to and how to best connect with them. And so throughout my decades of experience, I've really been intentional in trying to stay up with current trends and then finding out how can those be incorporated in a cost-effective way to the organization that I'm working with.
Yeah, thank you for that. So, Laine, how do you see your role as a communications director contributing to the overall mission and goals of School Administrators of Iowa?
Well, we know that our mission is to support, encourage, and develop Iowa's educational leaders and learners. And the role here, my role at SAI, is to help get the word out in part about all the great things that the organization does, the programming that's developed, the resources that we want to provide, the connections that we can make with administrators across the state so that they can learn from each other, as well as, job opportunities that come up. So really, I think what will be exciting for me is to get to know administrators and districts across the state, and then really continue to support the mission of SAI of making those meaningful connections.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So when you think about communications, what is your vision for the communication strategy here at SAI?
Well, I'll have to say, Tracy Harms' great work over the last 2+ decades really laid a great foundation regarding the communication strategy. And I'm very grateful that I got to meet her and work with her briefly before she retired. I would really love just to expand upon that great foundation that was built. And in part, that's going to be listening to those across the state to understand how they like to receive information. We know we all get way too many emails, right? Things get buried in an inbox. And so how can we share the valuable information that SAA provides in a variety of ways that is easily digestible, quick nuggets of information, podcasts, videos, links to things through social media, et cetera. So administrators get what they need, but they get it both in a timely manner and the manner that they might best consume the information. And so that's really the strategy that I'd like to build out over the coming year.
And that's an actual great segue to my next question. So, how do you plan then to engage with SAI members and ensure that their voices are heard?
A variety of ways. Certainly would love to have some meaningful one-on-one connections and conversations. I also believe that we as an organization will be sending out a survey or some way that we can gather a volume of data that will, and in part, we'll be asking questions that will help me understand those answers that are needed. So the strategies that I'm making on how to communicate will be really thoughtful and based off of feedback that we receive. When it comes to specific feedback or voices that need to be heard, I really encourage the direct communication. I welcome a phone call or an email, and would like to get to know the administrators across the state of Iowa.
Yeah. Our rep council and exec committee will be some people that will be able to be helpful there too. So
absolutely, I look forward to meeting them soon and listening to their feedback as well. That will be very helpful to me.
yeah, for sure. What strategies do you plan to use that would keep our members informed and connected?
Well, I think that while I mentioned some of the tactics earlier, I think when I consider the strategies about keeping our members informed and connected, it's again looking at our varied size districts, our varied demographics across the state, and understanding how are they connecting now, and then how can I build upon what's already been developed. We had 1,400 administrators come to our conference in August, and that's exciting that there's some meaningful connections face to face. We have a variety of professional development opportunities that are face to face for meaningful connections. But when you can't be face to face, how can we connect and connect administrators as well as provide connections back to us at SAI? And I really think that I'll probably be doing a lot of listening and learning in the coming months to understand, again, how to build on what's already been there, but what new things or what new ways might be best leveraged to strengthen those connections. So more to come.
Yeah, perfect. So as you know, social media is a powerful tool in today's world, and social media just continues to expand, the definition of that. How do you plan to leverage social media to benefit SAI?
I think this is a real opportunity. I know that some administrators shy away from social media for lots of reasons. It can certainly be a rabbit hole in one way, but also, there's this delicate balance of having your private life and your public life as an administrator, and how does that all work? But I think that social media provides an opportunity to tell stories, and telling stories visually as well as just anecdotally and making those connections can be very powerful, whether it's through Facebook or Instagram or X, or even, who knows what might be next. I have not delved into some social media platforms in my previous roles because we were always very intentional about what's the purpose, what's the audience, and what are the best practices for each. I will say that my hope is to create some meaningful connections through social media. whether it be building out SAI's presence on some of those platforms, but also even creating maybe some groups. Facebook is a perfect example that may have a group setting that is more private and provides ways that individuals can post questions and get feedback. And again, most people who have social media platforms have them on their phone, which makes it another easy way to click in and get some information or post some information quickly. I'll be sharing in the future to SAI members tools that might be helpful in their role as they consider social media themselves regarding their school districts. Social Pilot is one tool that is an easy way for teachers, administrators to post social content, even if they don't happen to have a social media account themselves. So I look forward to building out our social media presence, but also sharing some tactics that districts can use when they're considering social media for their school or for their school district.
Yeah, I love that. I think that would be really welcomed from members as well. And then I love what you said about, possibly using Facebook. We've had a conversation about should we have some platform where administrators could pose questions and get, a kind of a dialogue going or answers easily from others around the state, and hadn't thought about Facebook, actually. I don't know why we didn't, but love that thought, and we'll have to have more conversation around that, Laine. So what do you see, coming into this role new? What do you see as possibly some of the biggest challenges? And then if you've been able to identify any yet, it's only day 4 for you. What would you do to address those?
I think of this challenge as actually an opportunity in that I am very grateful that I did have 7 years with West Des Moines Community Schools. It's one of the larger school districts in the state. I had a wonderful set of resources and a team that I worked with. And that provided me one lens as a communications professional in public education. But I know that there are districts across the state that are geographically different in size, different in needs. And I really look forward to learning about what those differences are, and then how can I help provide some resources based on what I learn. I'm also a member of the Iowa School Public Relations Association and have had the pleasure of getting to know communication professionals across the state of Iowa. They've certainly helped me learn about the differences to a degree, but in this new role, I think it'll be even more critical that I get to know personally the varied needs across the state, and then how can I step in and start to provide some additional resources that when there are gaps.
Awesome. So, Laine, what motivates you in your work? And then what are you passionate about?
Well, as I said, when I first started out of college, I happened to get my very first job with West Des Moines Community Schools. And so I learned early on that I was very passionate about public education. I personally was in public education as a student through junior high. And then I was in a private high school for high school. And I appreciated that experience. I certainly understand that for families, they need to make decisions that are best for their families at the time. But I sent all 3 of my girls through West Des Moines Community Schools and really value the role that public education plays in the lives of students and families. And so being able to have my career linked to that is even more fulfilling. Beyond that, I certainly have lots of other passions and things that I enjoy. I'm a runner. I really enjoy connecting and just spending time with family and friends. We just put in a pickleball court. So that's been our latest thing that we're pretty passionate about. But I enjoy life for sure, and just enjoy being active and connecting with family and friends outside of the work that I do here.
Yeah, very good. So share a personal anecdote or an experience that has helped shape your approach to communications.
I think I knew this years ago, but certainly when 2020 hit and we all experienced the crisis of COVID, the need to provide timely, clear, concise communication was even more evident. And what I am grateful that we were able to do across the state, because it certainly wasn't just in our district, I saw it all across the state of Iowa, was in our best way provide a calming presence that when staff and students and families were frightened, when they were angry, when whatever that emotion was, that our goal was to do the best we could to be that calming communication presence. And so you don't have to be in crisis to have that be a priority for sure. I think that I've learned over the years too, that regardless of your demographic that you're talking to, if you can just be clear and succinct and straightforward, we're all very busy, and so providing communication that gets the information to that audience quickly and clearly is really important. And then honestly, just thinking about, I'm sure no one's ever heard this, but thinking about, you need to send out information more than once. If it's important information, it probably needs to go out in a variety of ways over a variety of times. So when your parent calls up and says, I didn't get that email, well, it's probably because it's buried in all of the other emails that they get from their work, or there's all the other school emails that go out. So having some patience with that and understanding, hey, you might need to post something to social media, and you might need to send a text, and you might need to send an email, and that's okay. It's better to get that important information out in a variety of ways than only sending it once and then potentially having frustrated stakeholder groups, whether it's staff or parents or guardians.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So true. You're bringing back memories for me. So what do you hope to achieve in your first year here at SAI as our communications director?
Well, my first priority is to listen and learn. I really think that listening to our audience and understanding what's gone well, understanding areas for potential growth and expansion. I certainly have been known to challenge the process, and I do that not with any disrespect to what's ever been done in the past, but to know that we can always better an organization's ability to reach others and to communicate better and differently. So I'm excited about, again, listening and learning, and then thinking differently potentially about how we're reaching out and sharing information. We have a brand new website that was launched earlier this year, and there is a lot of potential to have our communication be searchable and linked in new ways on our website, again, to make it easier and faster for our administrators to find the information that they need. So lots of things that I'm excited about, but certainly want to listen and learn here in the coming months.
You have a lot of wealth of knowledge, so I want to tap into that a little bit. So with that knowledge of school communications, what, if any, communication type templates should schools think about having prepared ahead of time so that, gosh, when X happens, they have something prepared, because it's, kind of gets us going down a path and we get going 100 miles an hour. So what ideas do you have from that knowledge and experience that you've had?
Sure. Well, it's really vital to not only think in crisis. I say crisis communication in this broad umbrella. It could be a variety of things. It could be a power outage. It could be a water main break. It could be stranger danger or any number of things. Certainly does not have to go to the worst case scenario to consider how can we have some communication templates created in advance that can be a starting point. You always have to plug in the details, but there are a variety of subjects that come up in any given school year in your area that probably you could rattle off. And so if you think about that in advance and have time to have some of those templates, we're talking about creating some templates that districts could use and then adapt to their situation. When you're in the moment of trying to get something out right away, what you don't want to do is have to start from scratch with a blank sheet of paper. So certainly crisis is kind of that general umbrella of how can you have some templates created, but also if you could plan in advance the rhythm that you'd like to communicate to your families and I recommend an electronic newsletter, not an email, but something that can again have some visuals and some links to, more information on your website. We used SMORE in West Des Moines Community Schools, but there's a variety of things out there. But if you consider having something that you could easily set up once and then make a copy for next week's communication or whatever that frequency is, it will help save you time as well, whether it's that electronic newsletter or if you do regular videos. Every district is different, but thinking about being proactive, because every day is going to look different, as you know, and you're not necessarily going to have that time to sit down from scratch. Those are all very helpful things. And I look forward to hopefully building out some of those options that districts might be able to leverage.
That's great. So how about any tips for our listeners regarding best practices related to communication with their school communities?
Talked about this a little bit earlier, but being clear and concise. One of the things I learned coming into public education after having been away from it for so long, I'd worked on the corporate sector for a lot of years, is we have a lot of acronyms. We could probably have like a whole little separate booklet about acronyms that we love to use. And when we're talking to each other, PLCs and MTSS and all of those other terms are just, hey, we know what they mean, but families don't, and board members don't. And they can get frustrated by not understanding what an acronym is. And so when you're talking or writing, just make sure that you provide context as frequently as possible. Always write out whatever that acronym really means, and then even add like a sentence that maybe simplifies what like multi-tiered systems of support, like what does that mean? What does that look like? So if you think about it in terms of if you had never been in education and you were reading something, would that person understand what you're trying to convey? And so just getting into that practice is helpful. And it honestly, even with staff members, even though they know all of the terms, doesn't necessarily mean that that you have to use. I would recommend that you also consider that concise piece for your staff, because they're also busy with lots of things. The other thing that I would say related to best practices for communications within the school community is be mindful that they probably are sometimes interested in content that you are like, well, they don't care about XYZ topic. Well, sometimes they are. So being transparent on topics and finding ways to communicate us in simple ways about complex topics like budget. I worked for 7 years and I'm still sometimes shook my head at budget discussion. So just considering how, what are the topics that you want to be transparent about, and then how can you find simple ways to communicate that even visually with some infographics, if you have resources for graphics, those are all really good strategies that will help keep your community connected. And you want a connected community because they are a wealth of resources, whether through volunteering or making connections with businesses or building out opportunities for fundraising. Just those relationships between your community and your school district are invaluable.
Yeah, thank you for those. All right, Laine, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners?
I just want to say thank you to the listeners for your commitment and connection with SAI. I want to thank you, Lisa, for entrusting me in this new role. I'm excited to meet administrators across the state and get to know them and just see how we can continue to do the great work that we really want to do in supporting our superintendents and administrators.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you for saying yes to the opportunity. So we're
Of
excited
course.
to have you as part of the team and know, as you said earlier, that you'll build upon the great work that's been done previously and always looking at ways that we can improve as an organization to be in service of all of our members. Absolutely. So if any of our members would like to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
Absolutely. Email is certainly an easy way. Buck, Laine Buck is my name, but lbuck at sai-iowa.org is my email. And I apologize, I don't even know my extension, but if you call the SAI offices, I think actually that's what you do is you just call SAI directly. They'll transfer to me. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can look me up on LinkedIn under Laine Buck and would love to make a connection with you through that. That's another social media platform that we'll probably continue to try to evolve and develop in the coming months.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Laine. Appreciate you being here and look forward to the great work ahead.
Absolutely. Have a great afternoon.
Tune in to our next episode to learn more about the SAI Catch Life 30 program with founder Rick Schupak. Also, check out the events listing on the SAI website at sai-iowa.org/events for the coming month's schedule of professional learning.